What is going on, everybody? Welcome inside the Feathers and Field Goals podcast YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us for this special installation of Inside the Huddle during a Delaware football bye week. Already, the first third of the season has really flown by for Delaware, and that's because Blue Hen fans have been having fun, seeing the team having fun with a pair of really big wins, rousing victories back-to-back at home against UConn, and then most recently at Florida International to open up Conference USA play for the first time ever, 1-0. Brody and I discussed it on our full podcast that just dropped Thursday of this week. It's only the bye week, and we're already getting our days all jumbled up as the year flies by. But joining us to set the record straight and to get us a deeper dive into the Delaware football squad so far this season, it's Ed LeFurge III, the Assistant AD of Communications and Creative Services at the University of Delaware, the primary contact for football this season in the SID role, as well as the contact for the Spirit teams and the administration at Delaware. And we'll even touch on men's basketball as well. Ed hasn't dropped his men's basketball roots as he's the secondary contact for men's basketball this year. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time and welcome aboard.
It's my pleasure, Dan. Appreciate the work that you guys do in highlighting our programs and keeping all of the Blue Hen faithful informed on everything going on.
Well, you've done that each week as well at Blue Hen Touchdown Club luncheons with your weekly Delaware athletics update, and there'll be kind of a version of that later on here in this taping when we get to have you describe the men's basketball schedule drop that we just had earlier today as we meet on Thursday of this bye week. But we'll get things started on the gridiron, and in your experience so far with the Delaware football team, you've certainly been involved in helping with the promotion of Delaware football in your time at UD already, but this season being your first as the primary contact for media relations at Delaware football. How has this campaign gone for you so far, dating all the way back to the offseason and preseason fall camp? You've certainly been in many places, including CUSA Media Day, which was fun to watch down in Texas. So how would you describe the experience so far getting involved in FBS football?
Yeah, it's been fun. I'm no stranger to FBS football. Had spent some time at Temple as a student and as a graduate assistant working with the football program. So familiar with how things go at this level, and really grateful to Coach Carty, his entire staff, the football student athletes. They've really welcomed me in and made me feel a part of the program. With the addition of ice hockey, who drops the puck for the first time tomorrow night, which we're really excited about here. We had to be strategic on my staff and how we appropriately support everybody. And, that kind of gave me the opportunity to shift into this role with the football program. And, it's been fun. These guys are awesome. Coach Carty has been great. They want to win, right? They want to win. They want to do things at a high level. They want to make their fans proud. So it's been really fun to get ingrained with these guys and really learn the culture and the program at a higher level than I already have. So it's been a joy. Really grateful to my staff for helping make the transition easier for me. Certainly, as you can imagine, football takes up a lot of time, and the work that we put in behind the scenes to make sure we're ready to go for game days and midweek press conferences and everything that goes into it. It certainly takes a village, and I'm grateful that I have a village on my team that is putting in the work with me.
Well, Bryce and Brody and I, we really do appreciate it because it makes what we're doing, I can't say our jobs more fun, but just this whole pastime and this whole endeavor and this whole project that much more fun. And it does ease things up to have the weekly notes and and fun to follow on all the social media content as well. And you as a spokesperson for the program, it's been fun to see. It's also been fun to see on the field what Delaware has accomplished most recently at FIU. I don't think, and I can say I know that my podcast mates and I didn't expect Delaware to pull away in that ball game and take control or really take the will out of the other side seemingly on the road at a conference game. That's something that you never take lightly, dating back to CAA days and how hard it is to win on the road in your league. What were your overall impressions and takeaways from seeing it yourself? Or maybe seeing it back as well, because we know in games you've got a million different things in front of you, but seeing the highlights, seeing the video, and seeing in totality what Delaware did against FIU, what were some things that you think you learned most from that ball game?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to harp on something Coach Carty, mentioned probably after that Colorado game. We showed that we can compete, right? A lot of people, I think a lot of the narrative has been, hey, Missouri State, Delaware, are they big enough? Can they compete at this level? Are they going to be able to survive in the trenches, right? And I think after the UConn win, after this FIU win to start the year, we've really shown, hey, we belong, right? Like this is the level that we're meant to be playing football at, and we're doing it at a high level, right? To be 4 games into the season, to be 3-1, it's exciting for the program. I think, I was in the Apple store last night, and the gentleman helping me was a Delaware student, and we got to talking about like what I do for work, and he's like, oh, I'm a UD student. He's like, yeah, it's awesome that our football team is finally good. And I kind of like paused for a second, and I was like, well, we have been good. Like, we've been a very good program for a long time. I think just the overall awareness being at the FBS level has done. We saw everything that happened with the video game launch over the summer, and how much buzz that kind of drew up. But I think our guys are showing that they're here, and they're meant to be here, right? And nothing's changing. Coach Carty preaches finishing and being committed to the process, and that's what this program does day in and day out. I think last Saturday down in Miami, we were able to come out early, show that we're competitive. We're going to keep the pedal to the floor. We're not going to back down from a challenge. I was thoroughly impressed with the offensive line and just how much time it felt like Nick had in the pocket to be able to, make his reads and make his throws. So I thought that was something, especially given the fact that people were wondering, what is this going to be like? And, the way the schedule was built out this year, Delaware State, an FCS opponent, probably not somebody that's going to show you, okay, where is the true litmus test for Delaware? You go out to Colorado, that's a difficult matchup, a Power 4 institution. Is that going to give you the litmus test of who we really are and where we rank in this league? You host UConn again. All right, they're FBS independent. They've had some success. They were a big bowl winner last year. Is that a true indicator of where we're going to be and how we'll relate to Conference USA play? But then I thought this was the perfect opportunity. You open conference play at a tough opponent in FIU who has the preseason player of the year offensively, and you really kind of shut him down. He was effective in certain ways, but I think overall the defense did a nice job of maintaining what he was able to do. We forced some turnovers, right? We know Coach Carty and Coach Rojas talk about wreaking havoc and being able to force some turnovers. You're able to do that a couple times. You get a big play on special teams from Kyrie Duplessis in the punt return touchdown. So I thought it really showed on the road in a very humid, hot atmosphere. It's not something that's common for us up in Newark. So I thought it was a really good showing to show, hey, we're here. We're not going anywhere. We're going to contend, and that's part of what Delaware football is, right? We're going to compete until the final whistle.
You highlighted the Delaware offensive line, and it makes me think also of Delaware's defensive line. And looking at both lines on either side of the ball, whenever you're snapping the football and the first line of defense or the first line of protection is right there nearest the football. So many veteran players for Delaware, thinking about Finton Bros. Stephen Demboski isn't as many years old as Bros, but has had starting experience in the past, but before this year. Patrick Shupp, as soon as he hopefully gets back, he's another player who's such a veteran for Delaware on a line. The D-line having Ethan Saunders, Jack Hall. It makes it really seem like all in all, these players, of course, being here throughout years of Delaware's FCS football era, but the readiness for being at the FBS level helps start with those experienced players up front.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to, right? The leadership that we have on this team is second to none, right? We've got guys. You see, Jake Thaw, great example, named a semifinalist for the Campbell Trophy yesterday, right? So we've got guys on this team that have competed at high levels, whether it be at Delaware or at another institution, and to have some of those core pieces in a Hall, in a Saunders, in a Bros, in a Dylan Trainer, right? Some of those guys who have been here for 6 years all at Delaware, like they understand what Delaware football's about, right? They've embraced Coach Carty and his staff and what Coach believes in and what our program is going to stand for, and they live it every day. And I think that has shown in this transition. I think, we've got a great group of individuals that just want to compete and they want to win games. And, Jack Hall said this to Scott the other day on the radio show. Like, he's like, the guys that are playing that are younger than me, he's like, they're way more talented than I am. He's like, I was recruited to come here and play FCS, and I'm reaping the benefits of being here at the right time and being a part of this process. He's like, but man, these guys are good, right? Talking about some of the younger guys that are in the room and are up and comers. So, I think the ceiling is only going to get higher, right? As you transition to an FBS level, you're going to be able to probably recruit a higher level of talent, and that's something that we'll see in the years to come. But man, it's been fun to watch these guys just go out and compete and enjoy winning with their teammates.
Delaware surpassing some folks' early expectations only leads to some raised expectations down the line, starting off in October with a major game that had been circled since preseason. And I mentioned on our full podcast this week with Brody that the league office wasn't making any mistakes here, slotting Western Kentucky, a consistently top half team in the league, consistently a bowl eligible team, going on the road to Delaware for that Friday night slot with the Tier 1 TV partner carrying it on CBS Sports Network. So the strong start that Delaware has had, Ed, it really feels like it's gone to script so far for Delaware, all leading up to a major parents and family weekend game, expecting a big crowd for what I know is the Blue Out being marketed as, and getting Delaware Blue to cover up the swaths of seats for the ball game. So what is your kind of on top of your mind heading into the matchup against Western Kentucky? It's still a bye week for Delaware, but an early chance to get a look at WKU when they play against Missouri State this week. I've just been thinking about the atmosphere that we can expect for the game, but then Delaware facing one of historically the best offenses in the conference, coming with the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome experience in Newark, a Friday night, national TV, right? Everything you mentioned, it's going to be really, really exciting, Dan. This is going to be the first nationally televised Blue Hens game at Delaware Stadium in 10 years to the day. It was William and Mary, a late field goal lifted Delaware to upset William and Mary on NBC Sports Network in 2015. That's the last time that there was a nationally televised game inside Delaware Stadium. So to have kind of all the stars aligned to bring, you mentioned how tough the schedule is. We're the only team in the league that plays all 5 bowl participants from a year ago in Conference USA, right? So, it's a true test early to see what this team is made of. And, so far you win 3, you lose 1. You obviously want to win all 4 of them, but you're going to be pleased with how the team's performed, and a good test at home where I checked this morning, we're a couple hundred tickets away from a sellout, a game that we typically sell out on a regular basis for parents and family weekend. So it's going to be really good. I think you're going to see, a rowdy crowd, a lot of people that are excited to experience this whole, what is Delaware football about, to do it against a Western Kentucky team that has looked really sharp this year. Their quarterback is a stud. He's going to be somebody that obviously we're going to have to game plan against. And it's just going to be really exciting to just see the atmosphere. It's a Friday night. It's a late kickoff. It's, our second game under the lights at the Tub this year after the home opener against Del State. So it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I fully expect that. I remember that game that you mentioned against William and Mary, NBC Sports Network. It's funny to imagine that platform actually doesn't even exist on cable anymore either. Nope. So it goes to show you, it was a fun channel for college sports back in the day. I know you'd probably recall with the A10 as well, but
absolutely,
yeah, rest in peace, NBC Sports Network. It goes exactly to show you how long it's been. So I love that stat, and it's only fitting that to the day. I'm sure we'll see that in the packet coming up against Western Kentucky. That'll be a little preview of, I'm sure, of the packet to come. Circling it back, full circle to your experience all the way through the start of the football year that, in my book, really begins in summer with July 1 in this case, and then media day. how has your insight as far as the coaching staff changed from, I'm not saying looking from the outside, you're already being colleagues with them at the athletic department, but then being in collaboration and having this whole year so far, not a full season yet, of course, but this year that's already well underway for you with the football program. How has it kind of updated your perception of how well this staff seems to fit together? Because the continuity of Coach Carty's staff seems to really be paying dividends, not having much turnover in the assistants department. It seems like the cohesion there helps set the tone for this Delaware roster to be as clean as they were against FIU on Saturday night.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're gonna hear it, and I think being around the program, you probably sense this, Dan, but it's a family, and that's genuinely what it is, right? Like, if you look at from the coaches, from Coach Carty all the way down, it's got to be the same message, and there's got to be the buy-in, and that's exactly what it is, right? It is a tight-knit family community. Everybody has each other's back. We're all here for each other. It's really been a really cool experience for me, to get to know some of these guys, to get to know Coach and his staff a little bit better in my day-to-day role now with them. It's really cool to see them as the people that they are, right? Everybody, outside of the program understands, oh, it's Ryan Carty, it's the head football coach. And, yeah, that's always how I viewed Ryan Carty too. But now I know Ryan Carty, the person, right? Like I can, I text them about random things, and, you have that relationship with people, right? And so that's probably one of my favorite parts about this business, and why I do the work that I do, is just building the relationships that you build with people, right? Whether it be the coaches, the student athletes, almost every coach on our staff has a direct connection to Coach Carty. There's really only one or two that are a connection through an assistant coach, but for the most part, everybody has a direct connection to him. And, that's part of that family, culture that he's trying to build. When you come from a program, having played here, as an alum here, was, part of a national championship team here, you know what the program represents. And I think that's not something that he takes for granted, or he takes lightly, right? Like, he knows what it means to represent the University of Delaware. And, for him to be able to utilize that throughout his coaching philosophy, and how he builds his staff and how he recruits. And, this, as you know, Dan, it's not college football of 10 years ago where, spring was light and summers were light. And no, it's intense 24/7. And, you've got to be strategic. Really, for us, I would say that the season ends, and those guys are right into signing day, shoring up those recruits. You start the spring semester, you've got a lot of guys that either are freshmen who are graduating high school early to come in a semester early, transfers that are coming in January, and then you've got spring ball to try to get them acclimated. And then you had a transfer window where you're still trying to sign guys into June. And so, it's created the opportunity, I think, for the staff and the team to grow even closer, if that makes sense. But it's really a nonstop grind. And, you really have got to love football. You've got to love the people that you're working with, because you spend a whole lot of time with them.
Oh, there's no question about it. There's no doubt that it's. I think I've heard Coach say on multiple occasions, it's become more and more of that year-round job. There might be maybe June, one part of June, or before you get into different media obligations that we referenced earlier in July. Maybe there's a part in June that's got some more room to actually take some time and be with the family. Not that they don't integrate the family already to the program, which has also been something I've seen over time. But anyhow, Ed, I appreciate you offering that insight, because it's something that is more and more visible when the times are good and the wins are there. But it's also, I think, speaking to culture that helps get you through tough times too, and tough matchups are surely ahead for Delaware on this schedule. One last one on football for you is, I think, centering on Delaware's defense, because the yards that FIU accrued were there at times, but holding an opponent under 20 points on the road in a conference play, it's something to not just take for granted or take lightly or overlook. Delaware's defense, we touched on Delaware's defensive line, a veteran presence, but having takeaways on the back end with my son Pollard, and already emphasizing the 3 high life, 3 safety look that Delaware brings as a base. We were talking about it a bit on the full pod. It feels like that side of the ball the part that's going to have a breakthrough sooner or later in terms of, hey, you take away one big play that the other team had, take away some of their quick drives that they might have propelled by an explosive. And you're talking about holding people really more out of sorts, or holding people in some more stressful situations, not letting them get on the board earlier in ball games. It seems like that's the eye test, or that's what you're getting, I think, from the Delaware defense so far. I mean, how do you see it? Who has stood out to you as really players to highlight on defense who are going to be big parts of helping Delaware take the next step on D?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, this league is known for its offensive firepower, right? That's been consistent. Statistically, you go back, you will see, I mean, you've got a lot of teams that are scoring a lot of points, right? So for Delaware to be able to hold FIU at home under 20 points, that's a huge showing in conference play. So, hats off to Coach Rojas and the defense, and, how they were able to come a game plan and really hold an FIU offense in check for most of the game. So, I think moving forward, I think, there are a ton of leaders on that team that have been able to step up this year. I think KT Say, we've talked about him wearing the green dot, his leadership ability, his big play ability. I mean, I still think to that interception that could have been that got called back on the defensive pass interference, like an acrobatic catch on the sideline. Like, he is just a freak athlete, and he really has a high football IQ. You look at guys like Dylan Traynor, who's been here for 6 years and understands this defense well. Guys like Gavin Mole, who really just have a knack for finding the ball. But I think the other piece is you've got a lot of guys that are stepping up. You've seen Brandon Gorham come in and play some significant time on the defensive line. You've seen Caden Singleton come in and make some big plays. You've seen reliable veterans in a Jack Hall and Ethan Saunders combining for the sack against UConn to, hold them to a field goal to eventually lead to the winning touchdown. There's a ton of guys that band together on that defense, and whether it be a veteran, whether it be a younger up and coming guy, Kayshawn Cox has taken a big step forward this year, been starting out at cornerback. Nate Evans, another leader in that secondary, has been good. You've had consistent safety play. I mean, I think all together in the run game, I think Noah Matthews has been incredible. Saw him in the backfield quite a bit this season. So I really think that the unit meshes together and understands their assignments. And I think part of that is just the fact that most of these guys have been at Delaware for an extended time, understand the system, but also that communication aspect of it. That's always something that, Coach Rojas is preaching in practice, and sticking to the fundamentals and wreaking havoc. And, when the Delaware defense is communicating and forcing turnovers, they're a really fun group to watch.
Yeah, forcing turnovers and getting the ball back in the hands of Nick Minicucci and in the hands at first of the offensive line on the snap by Dembo or the snap by Fenton Bros, that then sometimes is setting up huge alleys, thinking about maybe running off tackle off the side of Anwar O'Neal, or having creases in the heart of the O-line with really the guard play that you see from Anthony Kachese as well, who I think probably doesn't get shouted out as many times as other offensive linemen too, because he hasn't had maybe as many total career starts. But we could really go back and forth on the trenches and talk about the trench mob on defense and emphasize that, yeah, that's been the FBS theme so far this year. A lot of scrutiny on that line of scrimmage, and it's held up thus far with more challenges ahead. We said in the beginning of the program that we would definitely pivot to a wider view of the athletics news lately at Delaware, and that includes just earlier today, just in time. I'm so glad we met in the late afternoon, and I got you to get you giving us a focus on men's basketball, as well as the full conference schedule was already out, but now non-conference completing the overall schedule for Delaware men's hoops. You're the secondary contact for the program this season, so you'll be dialed in, I know, as well, as much as you can, even during the overlap between the sports, football, and men's hoops this winter. What should fans know as far as highlights of the schedule so far, things that stand out, taking a wide view before we get into the nitty-gritty of Media Day in October, held by Conference USA for basketball?
Yeah, I think one of the unique things about the schedule this year is that it features an open exhibition for fans to be able to get a glimpse of what Blue Hen basketball is going to look like this season with a crop of new guys on the roster. So going up to St. Joe's, a place that is close to my heart, for an exhibition with the Hawks up on Hawk Hill in Hagen Arena. It's an awesome environment for college basketball. So I would encourage fans to get up there if they can, to get a little sneak peek about what it's going to look like. But I think you're gonna start the season on the road at Bucknell against a really well coached team, and by John Griffin III, and they're a team that competed for a league title last year, and he's done a really good job getting that program to be competitive in a short amount of time. So it'll be a good test early. I think BYU is obviously a game that a lot of people circle on their calendars, right? It's a big name. It's a program that's been nationally relevant here the last few years. So that'll be a cool trip for the guys to go out there. I think the MTE, the multi-team event down in Jacksonville, will offer some a unique experience for those guys. They're probably excited to get down there. Some warm weather during late November, so that'll be neat. I think you're welcoming some recognizable names in a program in like Iona back to the Bob. They're a team that has been in the NCAA tournament the last couple of years, so you've got some competition on the schedule that'll be exciting. But I think probably the one for me that I'm circling is that first Conference USA game, right? Like that's the start of a new era. Like things are here, we're excited, kind of like football, right? We talked that the first real litmus test, and I know basketball is a little different. There's some more similarities and consistency throughout the 370 some odd teams that there are at the Division I level. But I think that's going to be our first test to really see, like, okay, where are we? Right? Where do we stack up against a lot of these teams? So, this will be the third year in a row that I get to spend my birthday inside the Bob Carpenter Center in early January for a Conference USA matchup when we host Kennesaw State. So I'm looking forward to that. But I think just really seeing these guys get on the court and continue to grow together, right? That's been Coach Ingleby's philosophy is we got to do it together, right? It's not about one guy. It's about the team, and practices have been going smooth. I think the guys are excited that we're getting underway. It gets to the point where, similar to football, you kind of get tired of just going up against your teammate all the time. So in the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks or so, things are going to be shaping up, and we're going to be ready to rock and roll.
That overlap in November. I mean, November is such a special time, I think, on campus, academically, certainly, too. You get to be only a month away at a point from finals, too, and everything's happening at once. I can remember that. Football and hoops, both men's and women's. So the new era continues. First state, first season is in effect for men's basketball as well. And I was just texting a buddy this, Ed, earlier today. FBS football is a major shift with the conference change. That's, of course, our full attention right now in the bye, and then discussing Western Kentucky during family weekend. But I think it'll be a different basketball routine, too, not having Drexel or Towson as conference games in the years ahead, just not having that same routine, not seeing DC in the tournament where you had your own legacy run, Ed, of just absolutely in-game, helping us out with the notes and all the records of a really strong underdog run by men's basketball last time out for the final time at the CAA tourney in DC. So there's some nostalgia for that on my part still, from a Delaware sense, because those are really historic rivalries in basketball as well. And the program, I'm sure, will make a strong effort to keep that in touch in future years in non-conference as well. But I think you make great points about basketball. Is that's one not to overlook with all the attention on football. It's not to overlook either program starting out in what's going to be a challenging upgrade and competition there as well, when you look at different metrics and different programs that have repped in the NCAA tournament over time. It's going to be a lot of new names to learn. So if you're interested in basketball more, going to plug it. Bryce Leslie's been working on his Conference USA men's basketball preview package. That's still in the works and in progress. So I know Bryce, the hoop head that he is, he'll have me helped out and kind of have a primer, and everybody else as well who's interested Bryce will be working on that. But Ed, thank you so much for taking the half hour today. A lot of fun. I know we've been looking forward to this on our end since we were looking at the bye week and different possibilities and thinking, well, everybody's on break in a sense, not that there's not self-scout and improvement going on and a lot of deliberation going on with the staff at football, but we're thinking who's working nonstop and who can we dial up at really any time, especially a bye week. It was going to be Ed. So thank you so much for having a fun one with us and giving us some of the idea of what it's been like to be with the program behind those scenes and seeing Delaware step it up against FIU.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, Dan. And, it's been a real fun year so far, and it's only the beginning. It's late September. We've got a long way to go. A lot of our teams have been real successful this year, so we're excited to continue to cheer them on. And we'll see where the world takes us.
Soccer squads representing as well, men in the Summit League, women in Conference USA. That is an example of where you and your staff are coordinating with so many different league communication staffs as well, which has been probably a fun learning curve earlier on for your group as well.
Yeah, I mean, we get to meet a whole bunch of new people. That's been exciting. I've got a couple new faces on my staff this year, and they've come in and they've been rock stars. So really grateful to them and their ability to navigate as we work through this new era. Right, a lot of people forget that there's all the support staff behind the scenes that are working through and navigating this stuff, and it's really one of the things that make Delaware. There are some incredible people here, and it stems from the top down. We have great administrators, we have great coaches, we have great student athletes. The support staff is second to none. We really have some awesome people here that really want to see this place succeed. And, that's what drew me here. And that's what continues to drive me to, come to work every day and be there to support, our 750 plus student athletes. So it's been fun.
Well said by a comms professional. I wouldn't expect anything different, and can't wait to react as well to some varsity ice hockey for the first time in Delaware's program history. Looking forward to getting that content on Feathers and Field Goals coming up too. To your point about meeting all new people and having new things in motion. But that has been Ed LeFurge III, the Assistant AD at Delaware for Communication and Creative Services, and this has been Inside the Huddle on Feathers and Field Goals.